The Virgin Chambermaid. In November 2009, the Encore Network began broadcasting The Secret Marriage, a major television event inspired by the life of Damien de Savoia Underwood. The 2-hour special event premiere episode began with shots of a Chicago L train rumbling along the Yellow Line. A supertitle appears, informing us that we are arriving in Skokie, Illinois, 1984. In a large suburban apartment complex, an adolescent boy is getting dressed for a funeral. While putting on his new black suit, he furtively reads a death notice in the newspaper. It says that Vincent Damiani was 75 years old, survived by loving wife Maria, age 73, and dear son Victor, age 13. The numbers trouble the boy. He finds paper and pencil. He adds and subtracts. At the funeral home, the boy studies the crowd, the polite and mostly elderly neighbors who have come to pay their respects. For longer than he can remember, his family has lived in the same apartment in Skokie. They've always been the only Italian family in the complex. All the neighbors are Jewish or Soviet refugees or both. He listens to the old people murmuring among themselves as they walk away from the casket. He thinks he hears phrases. Of course, the boy must be. And, well, yes, the couple is probably the... And it comes from somewhere every month. That night he confronts her, the woman he has called Mama his whole life. He shows her the death notice. How is this possible? He asks. How am I possible? The woman says nothing. The boy keeps on asking questions. Why don't we live with other Italian people? Why do I study Italian with a tutor instead of in a class? The woman sighs, then stands and goes over to the walnut cabinet, the one from the old country. From her bosom she pulls out a key and opens a locked drawer. She finds an old letter in a faded envelope. If you have money to take me to Disney World every year, why have we never gone to Italy? Can we go to Italy this year? The woman sits down and looks at the boy. You cannot enter into Italia, she says, because la Costituzione della Repubblica says no. You are forbidden. Puzzled, the boy falls silent. The woman looks at the old letter, then at the boy. Dolce bambino, she says. It has arrived, the moment for you to know who you are. As the boy struggles to understand what she is telling him, a car radio starts playing Funiculi Funicula. Grainy stock footage introduces a new scene. A supertitle appears. Naples, Italy, 1970, as a taxi navigates aggressively through busy streets. At the best hotel in town, the taxi drops off its passenger. He is a tall, perfectly tailored man in his early 30s. At the front desk, he presents a Portuguese passport and asks for his usual rooms. He is Senor Manuel Victore, an international dealer of art and antiquities. The desk clerk, flustered by the surprise arrival, fetches the hotel manager, who apologizes to Senor Victore, explaining that his usual rooms are not available, but that the royal suite could be ready in an hour. Would that be satisfactory? Caso perfetto, says the visitor. The hotel manager smiles nervously and offers Senor Victore a light lunch while he waits. In the private dining room, as the waiters serve the visitor a pasto leggere with un vino molto buono, the busboys ask each other who this guest could be to deserve such attention. One waiter tells them he's called Il Principe. Il principe dei finocchi, says one of the busboys, and they all laugh. The head waiter, an older man who remembers far too well the Italian monarchy and its final decades of subservience to fascism, scolds the busboys and warns them not to joke about Signor Vittore. Mafioso, he whispers. Chastened, the busboys return to their work. One busboy, still curious, continues to listen to the rumors circulating in the kitchen. He learns that Signor Vittore is said to traffic not only in antiques, ivory, and stolen art, but also in arms, hashish, and heroin. The curious busboy catches a glimpse of his girlfriend in the hall and slips out of the kitchen to see her. She is a chambermaid, a spirited and flirtatious young woman, but also proudly virginal and devoted to her Catholic faith. Right now, this chambermaid is very busy because she has to hurry upstairs and prepare la suite reale for an unexpected guest, Signor Vittore. The busboy warns her that Signor Vittore is in fact a dangerous smuggler known as Il Principe. The chambermaid laughs and kisses her scapular. Santa Teresa will protect me, she says, touching the kissed scapular to the busboy's cheek. From him and from you. The next day, in her tiny room, the chambermaid is praying at her shrine to Santa Teresa. The shrine is really just a couple of candles and an old black and white engraving, rippled from age and humidity, in a rough wood frame. The image, a popular rendering of Bernini's altarpiece, shows the mystical Spanish saint in her ecstasy, with an angel ready to pierce her again with the arrow of God's love. The chambermaid tells Santa Teresa how excited she is today. Her two best friends from convent school are coming to visit. The girls arrive in chic outfits. The three of them were once inseparable, but these friends come from more well-to-do families and have continued their educations abroad. One is studying in Paris. She notices the shrine and tells the chambermaid that Santa Teresa d'Avila is a feminist existential heroine, the only woman in history, according to Simone de Beauvoir, to live her life entirely on her own terms. The other friend is studying in New York and has a copy of the American magazine Cosmopolitan in her bag. She says that the moment depicted by Bernini is just an orgasm, pure and simple, a pleasure that is the privilege and the right of every woman. She shows the chambermaid an article about you and your orgasms, with soft photos of women's faces contorted much like Santa Teresa's. Her friends invite the chambermaid to join them for lunch, but she has to say no. She must go to work. The two friends leave, laughing about the rumors that Cosmo will soon put out an Italian edition. After they depart, the chambermaid tries to imagine the world of her friends, so open and expansive, so full of ideas and possibilities. She prays to Santa Teresa, begging the saint to save her from the sin of jealousy. She prays to be freed from her own dreams of education, prays to forget the scholarship she had won, prays not to think of the university, the classrooms each with an empty chair, where she herself should be sitting. She prays to stop thinking about that day, but she cannot escape. The images of things she has never seen intrude into her prayers. She sees her father, resplendent in his conductor's uniform, on the train to Rome, the fastest and most modern train in Italy. Her father wasn't a rich man, but he was an important man, respected by everyone, rich and poor alike. She tries to stop time, tries to hold that moment forever, the image of her confident father, the conductor, the man in charge, a kindly yet authoritative presence. But time won't stop. What happened next must still come to pass, as it came that day and now will always come. The explosion, the derailment, and then the funeral, and the government on the radio blaming the communists, and the peddler on the street daring to blame the government. She prays to Santa Teresa for the strength to accept her life as it is now, a life without a father, a life of working at the hotel, doing what she can to help her mother and her sisters, a life where the university is now simply a place where other people go. And then, as always, Santa Teresa answers her prayers. Just as Santa Teresa allows the angel to plunge his golden dart deep into her entrails, so the chambermaid, guided by the saint, opens her own heart to the fiery arrow of love. She feels the sins of bitterness and resentment draining away, her soul filling instead with the pure, healing waters of divine grace. As she puts on her chambermaid's smock and tucks her scapular beneath it, she knows that today, at work, she will not sulk. She will be her usual spirited self, a font of joyous energy for everyone at the hotel, for rich and poor alike. That evening, Signor Vittore meets with his friend Silvio, an exuberant young lawyer, much shorter than his friend from Portugal, but even more elegantly dressed. Silvio has recruited Signor Vittore to join an exclusive Masonic lodge, and tonight he has arranged for a special gathering of the loggia in the ballroom of this very hotel. Silvio takes Signor Vittore around to meet his fellow Masons, generals and colonels, a government minister or two, and tables filled with officers of the Secret Service. Many of them already seem to know Signor Vittore. Several make sly jokes about his status as the only Portuguese member of the lodge. One general rather drunkenly tells the honored new member that the Italian Constitution must, absolutely must, be amended to allow Vostra Altezza Real to visit Italy under his own name. After dinner, some Sicilian businessmen arrive. Now it is Signor Vittore's turn to make introductions, after which Silvio takes the Sicilians aside to talk business. He has an investment opportunity for them, a building project in Milan, the largest real estate development Italy has ever seen. Silvio assures the Sicilians that the project will be totally legitimate, so clean, in fact, that it will be the world's largest washing machine. Later that evening, Silvio, in gratitude, offers to provide Signor Vittore with a pair of the finest prostitutes in Naples. Signor Vittore demurs, telling Silvio that he has just become engaged to a most wonderful girl, a world-class water skier, and the heiress to a Swiss biscuit fortune. It's not her somewhat vulgar wealth that matters to Signor Vittore, but her athleticism. She has given him the best sex of his life, and he will be seeing her again in only 3 days. Silvio is dumbfounded by this impulse to monogamy, even under the guise of sexual connoisseurship. He tells his uxorious friend that he must be more muscular in his pursuit of women, or he will certainly never become king. He challenges Signor Vittore to seduce the most beautiful and most virtuous chambermaid in the hotel. "In every hotel in the world," says Silvio, "there is such a girl, and usually I am the one to seduce her. But in this hotel I will find her and give her to you, so that you may repair your masculinity." To Signor Vittori, it seems like a tiresome chore, but he cannot decline such a challenge. 23 episodes later, Signor Vittori finds himself hopelessly in love with the virgin chambermaid. He had set out, as promised, to seduce her, but now he finds himself, like Petrarch, captivated by Laura, bound by the chains of her goodness, her kindness, and her beauty. He is amazed by the transformation she has wrought in him. He has gone for walks in the countryside. He has sipped lemon ices in popular cafes. He has lit a candle in La Chiesa di Santa Teresa. He has been distracted by thoughts of the chambermaid while making love to his fiancée after her victory in an international water skiing competition. Signor Vittori has even stooped so low as to permit the chambermaid to rebuke him for his jealousy after he saw her holding hands with a busboy. The chambermaid had patiently explained that this was just one more reason why she must remain a virgin, so that she could love them both. And he had accepted that logic, not because it made the slightest sense, but because it came from her. A busboy for a rival. If Silvio ever found out. In fact, Silvio knows exactly what is going on. His spies have kept him fully informed about Signor Vittori's dangerous infatuation. But before he can clean up that mess, there is another matter to which he must attend. Silvio belongs to a specialized task force, a very select group within the Masonic Lodge, which consists of 2 officers of the Secret Service, an Air Force colonel, and himself. They meet regularly with an American, a brother Mason from a lodge in Northern Virginia. These energetic young men have been entrusted with the execution of La Strategia della Tensione, a strategy that proceeds from one crucial axiom, that an electoral victory by the Communist Party of Italy is, and must always remain, intolerable and impossible. In the back room of a Neapolitan cafe, Silvio attends a meeting of the select group. This afternoon they welcome a special guest, the leader of a tiny right-wing organization devoted to destroying the current age of weakness and building in its place a new Roman Empire of steel. Their guest is not an attractive person. Silvio and the American, both of whom consider themselves liberals, find the right-wingers' hatred of the people somewhat distasteful. The Air Force colonel, a devout Catholic, is troubled by the fanatical anti-clericalism. But when the zealot describes his plans, they all nod their heads. Someone, they agree, must do what needs to be done. 3 days later, there is a bomb attack at the Naples train station. The busboy, returning from a visit to his grandparents in Sorrento, is one of the victims. The chambermaid would have been a victim as well, for she had planned to meet the busboy at the station, but she had been forced to work late by her jealous supervisor, one of the many subplots in the story. As she hurries past a fish market on her belated way to meet her boyfriend, she hears the explosion. She runs toward the station against the current of the fleeing crowd. In the chaos and wreckage of the bombed building, she finds the dying busboy. She crouches to the floor and lifts his wounded body onto her lap. She prays to Santa Teresa to save his life. Around her, the authorities are struggling to control the situation. The police are taking orders from men in black leather coats who show more interest in clearing the scene of witnesses than in providing aid to the victims. Despite the chambermaid's prayers, the busboy dies in her arms. Holding his body, she wails in grief. Then she hears someone call her name. It's one of the men in black leather. He's walking toward her, saying her name again, like an old friend, like someone she has known her whole life. To her surprise, he is young, hardly more than a boy himself. He has the face of Bernini's angel, surrounded by soft curls. Her heart fills with hope. Is this the answer to her prayers? But then the man in black, or the boy, or the angel, starts laughing. He spits out her name and her father's name and the busboy's name, ridiculing their lives and their deaths and her sweet, innocent love. From deep within his long black coat he pulls out a staff, an officer's swagger stick, an ornate tool of implicit violence, and with a contemptuous gesture orders some nearby policeman to take her away. For a long moment he stands over the grieving girl in the exact pose of Bernini's angel, pointing at her with his steel-tipped rod, aiming it at her heart, mocking the futility of her tears. Frozen in that moment, she stares up in horror into his cruel eyes. Then the police pull her to her feet, out from under the limp body of the busboy, and drag her outside the perimeter of the ruined train station. She stumbles back toward the hotel. She prays to Santa Teresa, warning the saint of the horrible truth she has just witnessed, that Santa Teresa's angel, her supposed messenger of divine love, now visits the earth in the form of a devil. At the hotel, she boldly walks right in through the main entrance, in direct defiance of her supervisor's glaring eyes, and goes straight to Senor Victori's door. He welcomes her into his suite of luxurious rooms, and she collapses, weeping, into his arms. He holds her tenderly in a chaste and comforting embrace, restraining the immense physical attraction he feels for her. He doesn't even ask what's wrong. He just listens and waits. She has taught him well. Sobbing, she thinks long and hard. Her father is dead. The busboy is dead. Even Santa Teresa has been abandoned by her angel. But she, a poor chambermaid, has not been abandoned by this man. She remembers what her friends told her when they saw the shrine to Santa Teresa, about living one's life on one's own terms, and about this thing called orgasm, a pleasure which is the privilege and the right of every woman. As her sobs diminish, she makes up her mind. She decides to seek the ecstasy of the body in this violent, God-forsaken world. Her sudden, lustful kiss startles Senor Victori. For a moment she pauses, lifting her lips from his mouth and looking long into his eyes. Then, assured of his desire, she pulls him down into a flaming vortex of caresses, where pleasure and pain, giving and receiving, angels and devils, all become one. The next morning, Silvio demands to know how his challenge is going. Has the chambermaid been seduced? With an odd smile, an exhausted Senor Victori admits that he has failed. He could never seduce that girl. A close-up of Silvio's eyes shows that he suspects there is more to the story. Silvio would like to probe further, but he has a more urgent point to make. Signor Vittori must leave Italy immediately. Journalists from around the world are arriving in Naples, and they are asking too many questions. The Masonic Lodge must no longer meet in this hotel. It is just as well that Signor Vittori has no idea what happened at the train station last night, but he needs to depart. Right now, a yacht is waiting. It doesn't matter where he goes. Anywhere but Italy.